A regular patrol mission becomes a dangerous operation when Coast Guard officers discover a strange blue boat. When they start looking into it, things get serious fast, and they have to call for backup right away. Lieutenant Stephen Bricky was on patrol in the Gulf of Mexico when something unusual happened. "Lieutenant, this is Ensign James Estramonte." The voice came through the radio. "We've got an unknown boat on our radar, direction 157, about 4.8 miles away." Stephen's face got serious. "I'm coming right now, Ensign." When Stephen got to the control room, Estramonte was pointing at a small dot on the radar screen. "It's a small boat, sir, going about 6 knots. It looks just like those fake boats we've been seeing lately." Stephen thought about this carefully. "Captain Hernandez, can I get permission to check this out?" The captain nodded with a worried look. "Yes, but be very careful, Bricky. We've already lost 2 good teams to surprise attacks just this month." Stephen's mind started racing as he remembered the recent information they'd received. Drug criminals had been using blue-painted, low boats as traps, trying to trick Coast Guard ships into coming close so bigger, heavily armed boats could suddenly attack them. "Ensign Estramonte, I want you to scan everything. Sonar, heat sensors, everything we have. Check for anything strange within a 10-mile circle around us," he said. For the next few minutes, the crew worked without talking, feeling very tense. Stephen walked back and forth on the bridge, switching between looking through binoculars and checking the computer screens in front of him. "Sir?" Estramonte called out. "I found something strange, or actually, I found nothing at all." Stephen looked confused. "What do you mean?" "The area around that target boat is too quiet. There are no fish, no heat signals except for the boat itself." Stephen felt a chill go down his back. "They're using equipment to block sound. These criminals are really smart." He turned to the person handling communications. "Call Naval Air Station Key West. Tell them we need air support to look around, and we need it now." While they waited, Stephen told the cutter to stay far away, moving in circles around the target area. Finally, a scratchy voice came through the radio. "Coast Guard cutter, this is Seahawk 1. We finished checking the area. No other boats found within 50 nautical miles. You're safe to proceed." Stephen let out a long breath. "Thank you, Seahawk 1. We're moving in to check the boat." As they got closer, the strange boat came into view. It was a dull blue color, barely sticking up above the water with a very smooth, sleek shape. "Everyone to battle stations," Stephen ordered. "Turn on weapon systems, but only non-lethal options." The cutter's engines hummed as they pulled up next to the mysterious boat. Up close, Stephen could see why it had been so hard to spot. It was a semi-submarine, a drug boat designed to avoid being detected by radar and sonar. "This is the Coast Guard. Turn off your engines and get ready to be searched." Stephen's voice boomed through the loudspeaker. Complete silence. The scary silence that came after Stephen's command made him feel cold. The drug submarine bobbed gently in the water, its blue color almost seeming to mock them. "Ensign Estramonte, what are our sensors telling us?" Stephen asked, his voice tight with worry. Estramonte's fingers moved quickly over the control panel. "Sir, the heat imaging shows several people below deck, but something's weird. They're not moving much at all." Stephen wrinkled his forehead. "Could they be hurt, or just pretending?" "Can't tell, sir," Estramonte replied, sounding frustrated. After trying several more times to get an answer, Stephen made his choice. "Get ready to board the boat," he ordered, his voice steady even though adrenaline was rushing through his body. Within minutes, Stephen and 2 of his most experienced team members, Petty Officers Thompson and Matthew Carmine, were lowering themselves onto the part of the submarine that stuck out of the water. The surface was slippery, making every movement dangerous. They walked toward the hatch with their weapons ready. Stephen's hand hovered over the latch, his heart beating loudly in his ears. With a nod to his team, he grabbed the handle and tried to turn it. Nothing happened. He tried again, using more force. The latch wouldn't move. "Someone changed this," Thompson whispered, looking carefully at the edges of the hatch. "It looks like it can only be opened from the inside." Stephen held back a curse word. This was a problem they hadn't expected. He pressed his radio button. "Captain, we have a problem. Someone has messed with the hatch. We can't open it from out here." There was a moment of quiet before the captain's voice came through the radio. "I understand, Lieutenant. What do you think we should do?" Stephen took a deep breath, thinking about their choices. "Sir, I think we should use small explosives to break open the hatch. We need to get inside, and we need to do it right now." He could almost hear the captain frowning through the radio. "That's a dangerous move, Bricky. We don't know what's in there or how the people inside are doing." "I understand, sir, but—" The captain interrupted him. "Wait, Lieutenant. Let's give them a few more minutes. They might be scared and not sure what to do. We don't want to make this worse if we don't have to." Stephen clenched his jaw, feeling frustrated. Every instinct told him they needed to act right now, but he respected his captain's judgment. "I understand, sir. How long do you want us to wait?" "Give it 15 minutes, Bricky. Keep trying to talk to them. If we don't get anything by then, we'll think of something else." "Yes, sir," Stephen replied, trying not to sound disappointed. As they settled in to wait, he couldn't shake the feeling that every second was important. He turned to Thompson and Matthew Carmine. "Stay alert. If anything moves, anything at all, you tell me immediately." They nodded, their faces showing the same tension Stephen felt. For the next painful minutes, Stephen kept switching between trying to talk to the people in the submarine and watching the water around them. The silence from inside the boat was scary, made worse by knowing that there were people inside who weren't moving but were still alive. As the 15-minute time limit got close, Stephen's hand automatically tightened on his weapon. Whatever happened next, he had a feeling it would define not just this mission, but possibly his entire career. Just then, a muffled sound came from inside the submarine. Stephen froze, trying hard to listen. Was he imagining it? Or had he heard a faint cry? "Captain," he whispered into his radio, "I think we just heard something. Can I get permission to blow open the hatch? Sorry for the interruption. Before we continue with the story, I kindly ask you to like the video and subscribe to this channel. It is very important for us. Thank you very much." The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Finally, the captain's voice came through, determined and clear. "Permission granted, Lieutenant. Get our people in there, but for God's sake, be careful." Stephen nodded to his team with a serious smile on his face. "All right, let's do this. Get the explosive charges ready. We're going in." The explosive charge went off with a muffled bang, sending vibrations through the submarine's hull. Stephen and his team automatically ducked down, protecting their eyes from the flying debris. As the sharp-smelling smoke started to clear, Stephen's heart raced, all his senses on high alert. "Thompson, Matthew Carmine, cover me," he ordered, moving inch by inch toward the newly created opening. The smoke cleared away, showing a dimly lit inside. Stephen leaned forward, his eyes struggling to make sense of the shadows below. Suddenly, his blood ran cold when he saw what was there. "Oh God," he whispered, his voice barely audible. In the tight space of the submarine, a bearded man wearing a bulletproof vest stood with his muscular arm wrapped tightly around a woman's neck. The woman's eyes were wide with terror, tears running down her face. In the man's other hand, a gun was pressed firmly against her head. "Don't move," he shouted, his voice rough and desperate. "I'll kill her if you move." Stephen's mind raced. This was much worse than they had expected. He slowly raised his hands, showing he wasn't a threat. "Take it easy," he said, trying to keep his voice calm. "Let's talk about this. Nobody has to get hurt." The man's eyes moved around wildly like a trapped animal. "Back off. Get out of here, or she dies." Stephen knew they were in over their heads. This was a hostage situation, and they weren't trained to handle it. "All right," he said softly. "We're backing away. Just stay calm." Slowly and carefully, Stephen and his team moved back from the hatch. Once they were a safe distance away, Stephen pressed his radio button. "Captain, we have a critical situation. Hostage scenario. One armed suspect. Bulletproof vest. Female hostage. We need tactical backup immediately." The captain's reply came right away. "Copy that, Lieutenant. Backup is coming. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage." Back on the Coast Guard cutter, Stephen briefed the captain in person, his words coming out in a rush. "Sir, we need to act fast. Every second we wait puts that woman in more danger." Captain Hernandez's face looked grim. "I understand you're worried, Bricky, but we're not equipped for this. The hostage rescue team will be here in 30 minutes. Stephen paced the deck, his mind racing. "Sir, with all respect, let me and my team get tactical gear. We can use smoke canisters, confuse him, and break into the boat. We might not get another chance." The captain shook his head firmly. "No, Lieutenant. I know you want to help, but we wait for the professionals. We stay back and secure the area. Is that clear?" Stephen clenched his fists, frustration and worry written on his face. "Yes, sir." As they waited for backup to arrive, the tension on the cutter was thick. Stephen couldn't get the image of the terrified woman out of his mind. Petty Officer Thompson came up to him, speaking quietly. "Sir, what if we just sent a smoke canister down there? It might buy us some time, give the hostage a chance to break free." Stephen shook his head reluctantly. "Too risky. If it doesn't work, we might make him do something terrible." He paused, then added quietly, "But believe me, I'm tempted." The next few minutes felt like forever. Stephen's muscles were tight, ready to spring into action at any moment. He knew he was disobeying orders by staying so close to the submarine, but he couldn't make himself move further away. In the distance, the faint sound of helicopter rotors could be heard. The tactical team was almost here, but would they arrive in time? As if answering his unspoken question, a gunshot rang out from inside the submarine, followed by a scream that chilled Stephen to his core. His hand automatically went to his weapon. His eyes met the captain's with a silent plea in them, but the captain's expression stayed firm. "Hold your position, Lieutenant. That's an order." At that moment, Stephen knew he had a choice to make. Follow orders and possibly let an innocent woman die, or take action and risk everything: his career, his life, and the lives of his team. The gunshot from inside the submarine echoed in his ears, a haunting reminder of the life hanging in the balance. He took a step forward, every part of his being urging him to act. Suddenly, a firm hand grabbed his arm. Stephen turned to see Officer Thompson, his eyes filled with understanding and determination. He shook his head slightly, silently asking for restraint. "Sir," he whispered, his voice barely heard over the sound of approaching helicopters. "We have to trust the process. The tactical team is here." As if perfectly timed, the rhythmic sound of rotor blades became deafening. A sleek black helicopter appeared overhead, its downdraft whipping the sea into a frenzy. With practiced precision, members of the elite Coast Guard tactical law enforcement team rappelled onto the deck of the cutter. The team's leader, an experienced veteran named Commander Laureano Ubiña, walked up to Captain Hernandez. Their conversation was brief but intense, with Ubiña nodding seriously as he absorbed the details of the situation. Stephen watched, his heart pounding, as the tactical team quickly prepared for action. Their movements were smooth and practiced. Commander Ubiña approached him, his eyes sharp and focused. "Lieutenant, I understand you've been watching the situation. Any last-minute information?" Ubiña listened carefully, occasionally nodding or asking for more details. "All right, people," he called out to his team. "We've got a hostage situation, with at least one armed suspect, possible injuries inside. We go in fast, and we go in hard. Clear?" A chorus of, "Yes, sir," rang out. With a nod from Ubiña, 2 team members threw gas canisters into the submarine's open hatch. The canisters hissed as they released their confusing payload. Seconds later, Ubiña gave the signal, and the tactical team swarmed into the drug sub with practiced efficiency. The next few minutes were agonizing for Stephen and his crew. The muffled sounds of shouting and fighting came from the submarine, interrupted by what might have been gunshots. Stephen's hand never left his weapon, every muscle in his body tense and ready to spring into action if needed. Then, movement at the hatch caught his eye. A woman came out, her face streaked with tears and pale, but alive. She was quickly followed by 2 more people, both looking shaken but unhurt. Stephen felt a wave of relief wash over him as he realized these must be the hostages. Finally, members of the tactical team began to come out, escorting 4 handcuffed mentally-armed suspects. Their faces were a mask of defiance and fear, their eyes moving wildly as they were led away. Commander Ubiña was the last to exit the submarine. He approached Captain Hernandez and Stephen, his expression serious but satisfied. "Submarine's clear," he reported. 4 suspects in custody, 3 hostages rescued. We've got 1 injured person inside one of the traffickers. Looks like he was shot by our main suspect. Stephen's mind reeled. "The gunshot we heard?" Ubiña nodded. "Seems our guy panicked when he heard us coming, turned on one of his own." Captain Hernandez stepped forward. "Excellent work, Commander. What's our next step?" "We'll need to process the scene," Ubiña replied. "Lieutenant." He turned to Stephen. "I understand you and your team were first on the scene. Want to take a look inside? We could use your expertise." Stephen nodded eagerly, grateful to finally be useful. He and his team carefully entered the submarine, their eyes widening at what they found. The inside was a maze of sophisticated equipment and tightly packed bundles. Stephen's experienced eye quickly assessed the situation. "Captain," he called out, "we're looking at about 2 tons of cocaine here, street value easily in the hundreds of millions." As they continued their inspection, Stephen couldn't help but feel mixed emotions. Pride in the successful resolution of the hostage situation, relief that no innocent lives were lost, and a gnawing frustration at his own helplessness during the ordeal. Back on deck, the rescued hostages were being taken care of by medical personnel. Stephen approached one of them, a young woman who seemed the least shaken of the 3. "Ma'am," he said gently, "I'm Lieutenant Bricky. Can you tell me what happened?" The woman, who introduced herself as Sophia, spoke in broken English. "We were forced into the submarine. They said they would kill our families if we didn't cooperate. When your team arrived, Carlos, the leader, he panicked. He shot Ramon and took me hostage. I thought I was going to die." Stephen placed a comforting hand on her shoulder. "You're safe now. We'll make sure you and your families are protected." As the night went on, the scene transformed into a busy center of activity. Evidence was collected, statements were taken, and plans were made to tow the drug sub to a secure location for further investigation. Stephen found himself standing at the railing of the cutter, looking out over the dark water. Captain Hernandez approached, standing silently beside him for a moment. "You did good work today, Bricky," the captain finally said. Stephen nodded, still feeling the weight of the day's events. "Thank you, sir, but I can't help feeling like I should have done more." The captain turned to face him. Sometimes the hardest part of our job is knowing when to act and when to wait. You showed remarkable restraint today, and that's just as important as taking action. As dawn broke, Stephen felt changed by the experience. The operation was over, but there would be other challenges ahead. The drug sub, now secured and under guard, served as a silent reminder of the constant battle they faced. But as Stephen watched the sun rise, he felt ready for whatever came next. Did you enjoy this story? If you heard that gunshot and knew someone was in danger, would you wait for backup or rush in to help? Let us know in the comments below. If you liked the story, subscribe to this channel and leave a like. Patience can save more lives than rushing in. Thanks so much for listening. See you in the next video. Have a great day.